Hey fellas, Meat Trapper here, and the hot weather is broken. It's broken in a big way. The flooding has gone down and it's turned cold. So it's finally trapping season, or it finally feels like trapping season. And it's interesting to go back through the river now and see just how much has changed in the last couple of days. Really, everything gets swept away. Places that you made sets 2 or 3 days ago, the places just don't exist. The set locations don't exist. But it's also a good way to get out and see where the recent activity is, because the beaver's going to have to come out. They're going to have to remake their caster mounds. You can see which slides are actually active, and so it gives you a good way to see what the current activity is. So anyway, it's time to do a little trapping, and we'll see how it goes. And one thing I'm going to do today is a little bit of lure testing. And on the left here, we've got a big pile beaver lure from Jeff Dunlap. And on the right, we've got Delta Red from Clint Locklear. And I've used Delta Red in the past. It's a proven performer. It's a very expensive lure. I've used the big pile in the past, and I've had mixed results with it, but I really didn't give it a fair shot. So what I'm doing today, the way I'm going to test these, is I'm going to make 330 sets and snare sets. Now the 330 sets, all are going to have Delta Red as the bait, as the lure. Now, it's harder to get a beaver to stick his head through a 330 than it is a snare. And so the deck is sort of stacked against the Delta Red a little bit, but I'm not worried about that because I know it's a proven lure. Now, on the other side, what I'll do is I'll go straight across the river over there, and I'll make a snare set. And on the snare set, I'm going to use the big pile. And so we shall see what that produces. What I'm expecting is sort of an even distribution. I don't really expect one lure to outshine the other. But if you were to set this up and say you put out a dozen with one lure and a dozen with the other lure, and you alternated them up and down the river, if you got all your catches on one lure and nothing on the other, that'll tell you something. And you can't just do this one time. You have to do it under different conditions at different times of the year in order to get a true picture of the lure. A lot of guys, if they're land trapping, they'll just take a notebook and they'll make a note of what set they used, what lure they used, and all of that. When you're wearing shoulder length rubber gauntlets, you're in and out of a kayak and everything is muddy, you can't really keep notes like that. So I'll make 2 different types of sets, 330 and snare, and I'll use all one lure on one and all the other lure on the other. So anyway, be interesting to see, won't it? Okay, here's another 330 set in the slide, nothing fancy. Just notice how I've added the peeled sticks back there for a little bit extra eye appeal. And I've got my bait stick standing upright, and then I just splashed some water over the slide to give it a fresh used look, and we'll see what happens. Now here's a little snare set that I put in, and what you can see there is I've got my fiberglass pole. I've switched over to 14 gauge wire on it, trying something a little different this time. So I've got my snare supported there, and right there you can see my lure stick. It's the horizontal stick, and that's got the big pile beaver lure on it. And the idea is for the beaver to swim along this or under this exposed root ball here and swim into the snare as he's looking for the source of the lure. So we shall see. Nothing special. As far as the snare support goes, I've made some new ones out of fiberglass rods instead of the number 9 wire. I'm using a little bit of number 14, just trying something different and seeing how that works for me. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use number 11 wire, And then I'm going to compare the 9, the 11, and the 14, and just see which ones I like better under what conditions. Well, fellas, it's been a tough morning so far. I've checked empty set after empty set after empty set. And I don't mean snare loops pulled down or anything like that. I mean just no activity. Nothing moved last night. Well, finally, success. I tell you, I was really starting to get worried there for a second. Got a double on this set. So let's take a look. Okay, we had a slide right here. And what I did is I put a 330 with some Delta Red on it in the slide. And you can see, there he is right off the edge of the boat there. Now, over here you can see under this log, what I did is I put a snare, and then I put a lure stick on the side of the bank over there, and I put some of the big pile on that. And I've got one. He's down there hiding under the grass. He's been down there for a while. That's a smart one. He is not moving, he's not splashing or anything. He was right up there. He had burrowed. It was interesting to see. You can see during the night he burrowed a little place to get up and get some protection and to conceal himself. That hole right there was not there. It was a flat wall, a flat bank when I made the set. And fortunately, and here's a good lesson, you can see my extension cable is going up, and you can see I've anchored the snare up there. If I had anchored into the side of that wall, that beaver could be gone. He could easily dig the 18 inches or 24 inches down to get that anchor out of there. But since I anchored up high, he had no way to get up there and dig. That's not where he was going to dig. So anyway, I've got a, and that's a small one there. That's a little one. This one was much bigger. Let's see if I can get him to, let's see. There we go. There he is. He does not want to come up. There we go. Right there. That's about all he's going to do. He's going to be difficult. There we go. Right there. All right, let me take care of the dispatch, and we'll head on down the river. Well, fellas, I ended up with 3 this morning. Caught 2 on the Delta Red and 330s, and 1 in the snare, which really there's no difference, no statistical difference between that. You know, and the bottom line is make good sets, use an attractant, and as long as you're setting on sign and you got everything right, there's no secret super lure. And you know, I've used a lot of different lures. My favorites, my perennial favorites, I keep coming back to are Fox Hollow's Dam-a-Dam, Paul Dobbin's Backbreaker, and Clint Locklear's Flattail Call. Those 3 lures they consistently produce. They're all southern lures, and of course I live in the south. That's a big thing. You know, I've used some of Tim Caven's lures and not had that much success with it, but I'm sure if I was up in Minnesota somewhere up north, they'd probably be killer lures, you know. So that's really the only thing I can pass on about lures, is use something that's formulated by somebody that lives in your area. That always seems to be a plus. And then just set on sign and make good sets. But as you can see, we got the little boat loaded up, and it's time to get on down the river, start skinning, start boning, and at least we'll have some good fresh beaver back traps for dinner tonight. So I hope this is useful, and thanks for coming along. We'll see you next time.